Yeah, you guys as well. I saw the email and I thought, oh my goodness, I am going to be there at 1 o'clock today.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, thank you. Okay.
Good. Well, do you want me to do a little background, Kim? You want
Yeah,
to start?
sure.
Okay. Um, so Kim and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I've been working with Kim, and she's helped me through multiple life transitions, like I think a few of us on the phone or on the Zoom call today. And the most recent one was with my father passing in January. She helped to guide his soul to what we call the door, and to the other side, and to it was just witnessing it and being a part of it was like the most beautiful thing I've experienced. And I just, after that, said, we got to find a way to bring this experience to other people. And we got onto conversations about endings and beginnings. And then we just started hosting these Zoom calls. We put a website together called The Door to Divinity. Is it The Door of Divinity? I always
No,
mess this up.
the door to divinity.
The Door to Divinity. And then Kim and I started hosting these just conversations every Sunday at 1 o'clock Pacific. We've had different people show up, and we've been pretty organic in the way we've been doing it. But last Sunday, we kind of tested out a new process, and I think it went pretty well. And so I think we're going to continue to move forward with that. And that was something I put in my email, which is probably open with a little bit of getting everybody grounded and together in the space, then having a little bit of conversation about what everybody is coming up against, working on, either letting go of or beginning. Today we wanted to focus on new beginnings because of the new moon. And then kind of depending on how it goes, we may do another practice and then have another conversation. But it's pretty organic, and that's kind of what we've been doing. So welcome. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you. And two, if people tended to share last week, which is great because we want to hear everyone's voice. And if we can too, just kind of honor our time or just be aware of the time and be conscious, I guess, how much we speak. And if somebody is expressing something, if we can keep it to our own, like if we can just keep it to our own kind of conversation and not, how you're feeling or me reading into how somebody's feeling or whoever reading into that, if we can just kind of keep it around our own thing and just honor the space, that would be great. And we are recording, if that is okay. It may be up somewhere, but we are recording. So welcome to the Door to Divinity. and I was saying that door, that post that I sent out this morning, I found that door yesterday in a garden. And after Val and I started this, she found a door, which I'll have to get her to post next week, that she painted, which is beautiful. And this door concept is extremely important with what we're working. So we're just going to do a little grounding meditation just to pull in our attention. So if you can just turn inward and close your eyes and start to focus on your breath. And just notice where your attention has gone. Notice how far your attention is extended out from your space. We tend to drive it into projects or things that we're creating. And just allow your attention to be like that flashlight, shining it on your heart. And let that magnetic field of your heart start to pull your attention inward. And as you focus on that breath, listen to that sound and that stillness. When you can focus within this place, magic starts to happen. And see it as emptiness. But in this emptiness, there is energy. There is new possibilities. And now turn your attention and just move your attention down deep moving it down your central channel to your foundation at the base of your spine. And allow your attention to move into the heart of the planet. So your heartbeat and her heartbeat are in flow and in tune. And just start to release any energy that is not yours. In this time, a lot of fear and anxiety have been coming up, especially before that full moon or the new moon. And just start to release and let go what is not yours. And allow those roots to go down deep as your attention and your feeling feel Mother Earth's heartbeat. Allow her energy to start to come through your feet, up through your legs, into the base of your spine. And just let that energy start to move back into the earth, circulating down. And allow that energy to start to rise as it comes back to your heart. And establish this ability to let go and release and to renew the body. That magnetic field of your heart allows you to update with Mother Nature's information and energy daily. Just ask her for your new update for the body. Allow the breath to just move this wave of energy moving down of what you want to release and let go of, creating space. And just allow her update and information to fill the body up. And feel her energy creating something new within you, where from that seed something is born. And allow her energy to come up in your heart and create something and bring something new into form. And as you focus within, just focus without for a moment. And as you do, imagine nature and the natural world around you. When you can validate nature in form, its beauty, creation born, you see that it is our nature to create, to bring things to form. And allow the breath and your attention to bring you back and experience that stillness within your heart and start to feel that magic of that potential, the unknown, and start to look and see today what is coming to form, what new is going to be born. And feel that circulation as we move through this class. If anyone speaks or something lights up for you, some energy moves through you, just release it, let go, allow the body to continually ground. This is the circuit and the communication with Mother Earth, so she can finally kind of move up through us and give birth. And so you can just open your eyes and come back. And even when we're talking to one another, notice placing your attention within and then moving it without. And if you can even look at this beautiful rose on the screen, this orange rose, the energy of pure manifestation and creation from the womb. Just continually kind of through this class or just through the conversation, move in, move out, just like the wave of the tide. Okay.
So I'm going to ask if anyone wants to share what they've either been letting go of or creating or bringing in recently.
Oh, Gail, did I see your hand move? Gail, you're
She's
still
still
muted.
muted.
Oh, Gail, you're
Gail,
muted.
you're still muted.
Let me unmute. I'll unmute you, Gil.
Unmute. Okay. Maybe
Gotcha,
I was
gotcha.
conscious when I went like this. I don't know. But I've been letting go of. I've been trying to let go of inner things I'm telling myself, things I've been believing that aren't true. So that's what I've been trying to let go of. Yeah, and that's hard. That's really hard. Like, oh, I don't like to exercise, or, oh, I'm lazy, I'm fat, blah, you know, trying to let go of that. But that's like a lifetime of belief. So yeah, I've been working on that this weekend. So
Great.
yeah, that's what I've been doing, and drinking herbal tea.
Yeah, I resonate with that, Gail. My name is Jen. Yeah, this week has been really letting go of a lot of my focus has been trying new ways to process my life experience. Historically, I process it with a lot of external vocalization with my friends, and I will like talk through things and share, and I value that part of me, but recognizing that also allows me to feed my judgments and my anger, and sometimes I get stuck in restoring and kind of really diving into the same space and repeating it versus moving through it or allowing new perspectives in my own thinking. So I resonate with what you said, Gail, because I when my grandma passed away, I didn't know it, but a lot of her clothes fit me because they were size XL, and I'm XL, and I've been celebrating that a lot. Like, oh great, I wear these clothes that I like, and like I can remember my grandma this way. And it just occurred to me this week, I'm not, except for liking wearing my grandma's clothes, I don't like my body. Like, so why am I celebrating being an XL in an unconscious way, right? Like it was a very unconscious, I'm not judging myself. It's an innocent sweetness to it. But I was like, what would it be like if I was able to really release these clothing, not just because I'm releasing my grandma and that bond in that way, but also because I'm releasing the need to be XL. And like there's just so all these little places in my life where my beliefs reinforce things I don't like, actually. And recognizing that those inconsistencies, and just giving myself permission to not repeat and reiterate that which I actually don't feel nurtures me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll share.
Yeah.
If, and maybe Doris doesn't want to, or that's fine. Or maybe she wants to after I do. I would say since the full moon, actually, I have been letting go of my busyness. Talking about something that doesn't serve me, but that I'm resonating with what you said, Jen. I've held a belief that I was not aware of, that busyness somehow equals goodness, money, abundance.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that that belief doesn't serve me anymore. Maybe it did. I don't necessarily think that my busyness historically has been connected to those sort of outward success measures. And so the past 2 weeks, I have been making more space to either do nothing or think, to create new things like paintings and reading and new forms of exercise and things that I haven't done in 20 years. And I've found myself to be more productive, but it's uncomfortable in a good way.
Very cool. I shared last week that I felt frustrated not being able to have the time to apply for a new job because I want to transition out of my current one. And then I was able to let that go, and I was able to actually get the application in. And I found out I didn't get the job like 2 days later. And so I was disappointed and frustrated, but it turned out to be really good because I said, well, maybe I just need to be focusing on what I really want to be creating in the future anyway. I'm not sure if that job would have done that. And within the last 2 days, I've had a couple of opportunities to maybe make more connections in the creative film industry. And so, you know, there may be more doors opening. And I just had a shift around just letting go what I think it needs to look like. You know, just being open to the unknown, like we were talking about last week. You know, like I'm really seeing now how that can actually be a miracle space.
Yeah, that's great. And no, everyone, especially in this past week, a lot of conflicts have been coming up of judgments about what we have about ourselves, our thoughts, our beliefs. And I look at it as kind of those judgments are the edge of the space, kind of what we don't want. And, you know, at the other end, it's what we do want. And the judgments are actually define the space. And in a way, we want to embrace, kind of like Jen, you were saying, why am I embracing, you know, this celebrating the excel? But in a way, you know, if we do know kind of what's coming up and on these judgments, what we don't want, we can find that what we do want, but it's right here, kind of that space in between where that stillness, like you're talking about, Val, where you can just be, where you can just observe, where you can start to communicate to. And it's kind of like that within, because this thing that we worked last week about attention, if I am so busy, kind of extending the session I did this morning, it was a woman extending herself. And I looked at, you know, she needs, you know, her goal, it's big, but actually her energy is out there creating and doing, but she wasn't really going to get that unless she brought her attention within. It is about this ability to really receive and really be kind of in this space of allowing people to give to her, allowing kind of her books, you know, she needs like 7,000 books sold or something. And just even in the little shift, you know, she told me a miracle about the session we had last time about, you know, her husband is not getting work, about how things were quite moving for her. And really why, it was because her parents would dump their problems, kind of talk about their problems, and she would listen to it. And then she'd let this kind of come inside. So it is about this thing about where, if you're filled up with whatever you're filled up with, our own chatter, these opinions about ourselves, the communication we have, then there's no space, because it's all about the space. And how do we create space? We ground, we connect. It empties out our space. When we feel pressured, when we kind of feel overwhelmed, a tool I do is I send whatever it is to the edge of the universe, because it allows me to create space. And by having space, now you can start to experience this feeling, kind of this relaxation. And at the end of the session, even today, there was this peace, this relaxation, and cells were starting to happen, like the energy was coming in. And so it is really, when we are occupying our space, magic happens. When our attention moves outside, we feel anxious. We feel like we have no time. And then we even have to speed up even more.
I have a question, Kim, that might seem unrelated to what we're talking about right now, but I am curious since we have in previous sessions talked about when we have a loved one that has passed on, how their energy can stay in their things sometimes, and it depends. It can or it can't, right? And so when Jen was talking about clothing, it just reminded me of that conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you have thoughts about clothing versus like a, you know, a physical thing like a house or a car or a chair or, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes. Well, I had a session this week with somebody, a person, and it's very interesting because she built everything in her life based on the response that she had with her family. You know, she didn't quite have a foundation. So she built kind of a little empire, you know, and based on what she didn't have. But it was, you know, and a parent dying that died, you know, a few years back, things started to shift and change. And I could tell because the person had an addiction. The person was not able to move beyond the door or through the door. And what happened is the person connected to the spouse, and the spouse almost died. And now this person is starting to gain weight and gain a lot of weight. And what was very interesting is I could see that her parent that died was hooked into the back of her solar plexus, and the hungry ghost feeds. And so so it was very interesting because there were a lot of objects, even the ashes, in the kitchen, you know, of the parent. And but in this case, because the parent did not know it died, and so I moved him through the door. However, the hungry kind of ghost feeds in her, and so I help pull out kind of that connection and that cord. I don't cut cords because cutting cords is like when you pull out a tick, the head gets lodged in, and it actually creates kind of even more of a problem. And so, you know, but it was really miraculous because, you know, in this session, that is a perfect example of all of the objects that were still in the space and all of, you know, here she never kind of had a weight thing and now she's gaining weight. And after her parent died, the siblings started to gain weight too. And the, you know, one sibling became obese and she's on that path. So here, when the parent was alive, she never had a problem. And now the hungry ghost is feeding. And so it is very clear, you know, ancestors, they don't mean to barge in, they don't mean to invade, but, you know, this is why communicating, you know, with, when you, especially around food and eating, you know, when we get hungry, when we eat, it's a grounding issue. It's because we don't feel grounded. And a good thing to say is, where's my attention? You know, to identify at least where it's at. Most eating things are connected to genetic line. And so, and then ground is the first thing, because grounding then resets your new foundation. And by grounding, you can start to, you know, feel that release, because when we do eat, like I like eating dark chocolate, and you know, it's kind of funny because when I'm talking, I was in session eating some dark chocolate, like eating a whole bar of dark chocolate. And she goes, yeah, I'm addicted to dark chocolate. And I'm like, of course. So, and so it's like these automatic kind of eating things. It's like, okay, who's eating? Even asking that question, who's eating here? And so a good thing to do, especially, you know, it can be identify what you do like to eat. And then, you know, I will, you know, I told her, put a glass of wine out, put it, you know, somewhere else for the ancestor, for the father to drink. And when you can redirect like a pack of cigarettes or whatever, the person liked, then the hungry ghost doesn't come and feed off of you. But just this awareness around this can really shift the way the energy then moves in your body, because we all channel. And when you start to become aware of what is channeling through you, then we have a different relationship, with the body, because we all have holes with kind of in us. And where there's empty space, our ancestors or the genetic line can run an energy through us. And then we start doing stuff as an automatic response. And it's the key to kind of, especially the eating and the grounding. And it's establishing then a whole new relationship with the body. I have a whole program actually on, eating and it's just energetics. It's pretty, anyway. Does that make sense?
It does, and I have other questions, but I want to hear, I'm going to guess that other people have some comments, so I'll save mine.
Well, I did like how your cat meowed at the end, or someone else's cat meowed at the end.
My cat, I have a black cat behind me and a white dog in front of me.
Nice.
That's funny.
Yeah, I heard that, like it felt like a very beautiful exclamation point.
Lucy, yeah, she came in to announce she walked in the house.
Hello.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
intense.
I'll go for
Sorry.
it,
Oh, that was very intense, Kim, because I often think of my white grandmother, my father's mother, who passed away before I was born. She had a hard life, but she was a hard worker. And I have her diaries, so I've got to know her through those. And I feel like she's with me because she helps me survive. But she was also overweight. Food was her thing.
Totally.
And the more she's with me, the stronger I feel, the more I'm a hard worker. I'm thrifty, I'm resourceful, I'm like her. But I've also gained 30 pounds since I've brought her into my heart, in my life.
Totally. And, and you can be in a relationship with an ancestor, but it's very important you set a boundary, because ancestors do not, they invade, and they don't mean to, because they're really trying to help you out. But then you become them, or their energy channels through you. So you have to reestablish kind of, I always say, put a diamond out in front of you, because the diamond will allow you to reflect your energy back, and it will reflect their energy back. But the diamond is the space where you can have a new agreement with her. And what that agreement would be is, okay, she's a spirit, so she can go do things. Say, okay, Grandma, we are, I want to have a new agreement of, where you go find out some information about how easy it is to create, how we can just be, really receptive and receive. And, and I'm going to, have that space and, and really have a new kind of picture of, and I want you to even say this, that, money is so easy, just it shows up every day. Like you're really just receiving opportunities. You are receiving opportunities and you see them every day in every way. And just that is a picture. And you show her that picture and you both connect your heart kind of into that picture, because I get my ancestors in agreement to my new pictures because it's helping them. And you will see how it starts to help you. And yeah.
Yeah. That was intense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, my father died when I was 10, and that's when all my eating stuff happened, and I gained like 30 pounds that year, and I always fluctuate between being 30 to 50 pounds overweight, like pretty much my whole life.
Yeah, and especially I have to say, in the solar plexus is where they plug in, and that's where I do offerings of certain foods for them. And, when I was living in Italy, I would eat 7 pastries a day. And, I don't do that anymore, but it's because of this, of how you change the relationship. And because they don't know that they are invading, and you just got to establish that boundary. And then you set them free. It's really this path is setting them free, setting you free. And it'll set your whole genetic line free, establishing these new agreements, these new pictures.
Yeah, actually, this weekend, this is fascinating. We're all kind of honing in on this. This weekend, I mentioned to my mom about weight, and how she's 21 years older than me, and we're very close. And I was like, Mom, I really want to make weight and health a priority for us, because I'm like, I get that I'm at an age, I'm 34, where if I don't start practicing now, it's only going to get harder from a scientific standpoint of metabolism. And I was like, and Mom, you're at a beautiful age where I want you to take it more seriously. We were talking about it. And she's like, well, honey, she's like, you've always had issues. And it like just reminded me, she said it very lovingly, but it just reminded me that since I was little, I've had a form of body dysmorphia or something. There's been a lot of energy for me. And Darice, when you say that, you've always been between 30 to 50 pounds, regardless of if I was or not, I've always felt like I was. I've always interacted with myself like I was, and have lived a lot of my adult life at that level of overweightness because of that. And it's fascinating to tie it. Yeah, I just think it's very moving to think about, how have I opened myself up? How can I love myself for being so sensitive to my ancestors and those to let them in? And honor that while creating these boundaries, right? Not shaming myself for that past relationship.
And I think that where people get stuck is you blame yourself, when it really that gets us stuck. When actually, you can find so many miracles when you start creating with your ancestors. Like it becomes miracle after miracle, because all they want the communication, but then it's like when I started to communicate, they invaded. And then, I got all these illnesses. And then when I set the boundary and said, okay, you're a spirit, you can go in the field and get that energy, bring it down, and let's create something new. Let's begin again. Let's begin a new reality. But, it's very interesting, especially when you eat, it's about attention. How we did the exercise in the beginning, where's my attention? I work with a lot of Germans, and people they weren't in the war, but their parents or grandparents were. And the way they eat, there's a hungry ghost there. It's very intense. But it's kind of like if this right here, if I were eating, let's say, a chocolate cake. So notice the next time you eat, how much of your attention are you putting in that food? And we can abandon the body fully and dump our energy in the food. And if our energy goes into this and we separate from it, see, we have to be filled up. This is where we don't feel grounded, we feel anxious. And then we just start to fill ourselves up eating the food, as opposed to keeping our attention kind of within, kind of noticing the space in between me and the food, right? It's relationship. And if there's a circuit, see, I could take it or leave it, as opposed to the relationship. You want to look at kind of the relationship and be very kind,
So I do have one question building on both last week, Kim, and what we touched on about the door, right? And I guess one of my questions is, without, like, if people wanted to do a sort of self-practice alone, not in a guided practice, how would you recommend that they sort of take themselves to the door, are able to have an open communication with someone in their ancestral line or their entire ancestral line or whatever it may be. And be able to sort of acknowledge those people or persons, and then have awareness of when they can be co-creating with them versus being taken over by their energy and becoming unconscious. That is a lot of questions in there.
No, I got it. I
Okay.
Yeah. So first, in this realm, you got to have the diamond out, because that's the edge of our space. And pretty much, especially if you have objects in your home, this is what I do for people, is I clear the objects. Sometimes you can't clear objects, and they are anchors. Sometimes you have to burn them. Now that may light people up, like I can't burn them. But it's very important, you'll know if they're stuck. So what I do, what we did kind of even last week, you start to say hello to collecting up their energy, and imagine like a golden ball or a golden sun, and then you move it through or up to the door. I always bring people to the door, because they have to choose kind of to go through or not. And then I walk through the door, and there's guides on the side of each of the door. And so this was a miracle last night, and it's connected. So birth and death are very connected. So I had a session, and someone, is pregnant, and we were talking and interviewing, spirits of interviewing, okay, who's going to come into the body. And as we went up to the door, and in that space, we're like, okay, here's the agreements, here's kind of what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. Otherwise, if we don't have this awareness, our ancestors come right in. And, it's kind of like, and usually it's on the other side, so we want to have some awareness here. But it's just like a body thing too. So you go up there in the garden, is what I call it, and you just start to communicate, and so we interviewed 5 baby spirits, and then we started to then we brought it down and brought it in. We bring it into the body. And it was amazing, because I could tell immediately which spirits, and this person doesn't read, but they could feel in the body which being was capable. What did it feel like to have a being in you? And which one had information, which one didn't have information. And then we brought this one in, and it was like the whole world was connected. It was beyond love. It was connection, and she just looked into the sky, and it was a night session. It was a night session. She wasn't here. She was on the phone, and she's like, all these shooting stars are happening. And we just both kind of were blown. And that's kind of like when I talked about last week, when helping the person out of the coma, bringing them up to a space where you grab miracle energy. You're just going up there saying, hey, I'd like some miracle energy. And you ask even the guides to fill you up with miracle energy, as opposed to food or our ancestors. You just ask for the miracle energy. Just keep it simple. I mean, this is what I do. And I'm looking in session where people are stuck, and this is how I help them. And you bring in this miracle energy, and you have an experience. So I would just keep it very simple. Just go up to the door, ask some questions, say your intention, bring back this new energy in our body, and you will start to, and I want you to see and be aware, and look for these possibilities. Like, you'll start to feel it. Like last night, that being, I could feel it in my body. And we are all connected this way. We are all, and when you have the experience of being connected, so connected, then we don't need to fill ourselves up with, where we got stuck or where our ancestors got stuck. And, I want you to be kind where maybe we feel, we need to eat, or where we have pain. I always look at that pain, even in me, like pain lights up. And I start talking to my ancestors, and like, I have compassion. I, embrace that, and let's redo this. Okay, we're going to redo this. We can create a new picture. We can go up there, get some miracle energy, bring it down, and then ground it into the planet. And now we're going to start to see something new get created. And that sounds simple, but I mean, I do a lot of this in session and stuff, but did that make sense?
Yeah, it did. It made sense.
And, Doris, too, I don't know if you want to share, it's kind of like, even that dream, or, how we approach things with the mind, we're trying to understand things and we don't really have that experience. But when you get that experience, and it's by doing it, because, I always go up, I always come down, I'm always in the earth, I'm vertical. And by moving and going up and down, you change every single time and you transform, because the heart transforms your energy. So, and then we start to find out, where our ancestors got stuck. And so I always talk to them, oh, I see you got stuck here. I don't take it as my own.
Yeah. So there's something really important in what you said that I just want to make sure I call out, which was when we see that, first we have to be able to reflect, right? And be in touch with ourselves and know what's happening. So that's the first step. But there's something you said in a previous session, not today. You said it again just now, though. When you do start to see a place that you are taking on a limiting behavior or something like that, rather than run from it and pretend like it's not happening, it's so important to acknowledge it, right? And so whether it's yours or part of your ancestral line or something, acknowledging the existence of it is the first step to being able to release it, transform it, change your relationship to it. And so often we don't want to see what we're being shown.
Yeah, we start to resist it and fight it and beat ourselves up,
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, see, we got too much pain in the body. And so we check out. And if we check out, we got to eat because too much pain. So we have to see how we're surviving,
Yeah.
and so
Or
we'll do that.
Or drink or get busy or,
Right.
All these different things that it's like just beginning to get that awareness of what is it that I go to?
Yeah.
And why am I going to it, right? And we've been using the topic of food, which I think is so common. But there are many others too. My addiction is work and busyness, right?
That's right.
And so just knowing, well, where is that coming from? That's not me. And in order to have a change to it, I have to be conscious of it and see it.
Yeah. And you're seeing survival, because my addiction early on was organizing, OCD, focusing on objects, like trying to control the environment because I was in chaos. And so, or early on, I disassociated from big trauma and no connection, no communication to the body. And when we don't have that communication, we get sick, we get ill. And then we have a tremendous, this is where all the anxiety disorders come from. That anxiety comes from not being in the body. So, especially our intention in it to have a new beginning, like calling these spirits in. The first thing, in calling the spirits into this baby, it's like, are you in agreement to being in the body? Because that's the hardest one. That like, even have that agreement with our ancestors. Our agreement is, okay, we are here to learn how to be in the body. It is easier to get to the moon, to get out of our space, than it is to get in the body. Like, okay, ancestors, go, they can go into different realms, go figure it out, bring back the information, and just the agreement. It's about the agreement. And we're in agreement that we're going to be in relationship with our body in a new way. And so it really actually, So when you have pain, what I tend to do too is if I get hit and I'm in pain, I fly up into kite space. I imagine my dragon kite or whatever kind of kite, you have. And I look at my body and I start sending my body gold. I start sending love to my body. I start grounding my body. I start doing it from, kind of in the back of my space, because then now I can be in relationship, because that way I can drive energy in, because I'll pop out. Survival means we're out. And once we're out, the beings come in, our ancestors or other beings. Have you ever felt anxious around certain people? Like you get around them, you feel anxiety, you feel ungrounded. Have you guys had that experience? That
Yes.
means that that person is running a lot of beings. That means that they're not grounded, and it means that they channel in a lot of energies, and then we feel like, oh no, we start to, and your automatic response should be, I'm going to ground. I'm going to anchor down. I'm going to commit to my body. And it takes just a few times, you being in the middle of chaos, and I'm committed, body. Because if you can talk to your body like we're talking to our dog, I'm here for you, body. It's a relationship. I'm going to take care of you. Even if you eat something, you know what? I am here for you. I am, that type of communication reestablishes a different relationship, because, that kite space is the connection to the body, because we're spirit. We can go out. We could come back in. That's what we're maneuvering. How do we get out? How do we get in? What happens when you go to bed at night? Does anyone get anxious when they go to sleep at night? Does everyone go to sleep pretty well?
I honestly get this really weird boost of productivity, which is entirely anxiety right before sleep. It's like, I have to do all this stuff. And then I tell myself, no, it can be done tomorrow, but it takes a lot of willpower to not give in to the anxiety right before sleep.
Yeah, so what happens when you sleep is all the energy starts going to the head. This is where the amping up goes, and then when that goes, there's no sleep. So this is why our attention has to be on our feet when you go to bed, or you, between your big toe and the toe next to it, you kind of press right there, and it'll get the energy to release, and you'll start to ground, or you ground right before bed, because then it drops the energy out of the head. It is, when the energy starts to go too high, that, we take off, and then we have to eat. We have to do all these other things because we're out of the body. And then we are opening up for our ancestors to come in. And that's why we think, oh man, I sound just like my mom, or, I'm, betting on the horses, but usually just once a year for my ancestors. Yeah. So.
I have one other question, but I want to hear if anybody else has questions or comments on what you've said so far.
It's a lot to kind of take in.
It's a lot.
I just imagine, because I walk my dog all the time, just like you do, Val, that how I love my dog so much. And it's so funny, my son's friend came through, and like I'm feeding him all this amazing stuff, and she goes, wow, this is for Dexter. Or Dwight was kind of going for it. I'm like, no, that's for Dexter. Like, he gets the love. Whoever gives the love gets the love. And, but just think, how would you talk to your dog? How do you love your dog? Mm-hmm. And if you can love your body or your child more, probably maybe dog more, if you could love your dog and your body the same, would you be telling your dog, these horrible things, you're too heavy, you're this, you're that? Could you imagine?
Well, I always say, what's the advice you'd give to your best friend, and give that to yourself? That's the hardest thing to do. But just starting to make a practice of that.
Yeah, that's right. That communication.
I do have one other question, if nobody else was going to comment. So back to the door. right? Back to the door comment and thread that we've been working on, and what happened with my father when he went through the door. And you were surprised at how quickly he went through the door. And you had said then, and you said again today, I can show them the door, whether it's a living or someone that's passed on or someone that's passing on, but it's their job to go through it. And so I'm trying to tie that thread back to the concept you mentioned earlier of the hungry ghost. So when you've worked in sessions with people, either with spirits that have already moved on or in the process of dying, what how do you show them the door, but let's say that they don't want to go through, they don't, some, you know, like you've said before, some spirits don't know that they are no longer in the body, and that's why they're trying to hook into people who still are.
What I'll do, it depends because I'm talking to them. I will go through the door and I will say the guides will hold you through the door so you can come out anytime you want. And then I'll say hello to all their ancestors. And so that energy, you know, and then, you know, I'll just kind of show them, I'll start to create and play and invite them in. And it's such an amazing place that who doesn't want to be there? And the reality is this, is I show them the path back, because, you know, when you start to take off, you know, you're reviewing pictures. It's easy to hit the astral plane. You'll get kicked out. So I just continue to show, it's like the coma. I brought him up, I brought him back. I showed him how to collect up energy, how to get back, how to redo the organs, how to get back. Like there was a lot of circuitry. It was a lot of work. But now, you know, if you can collect up that energy, bring it in the body, and now with your ancestors, they can find their way. So you can, a lot of people say, well, you know, will I never hear from them again? But that's not true. The reality is you're always connected. And the moment you shift, they shift. So then the connection becomes, it's like the baby being last night. I know this energy, like it is connected to all of us, and it's a part of this new time we're moving into. And the connection was deeper than love. It's the new, you know, and there's no words, but it is such a feeling of wholeness. And there is no division. We would never talk to ourselves. You know, talking to ourselves kind of in a negative way just means we're on just one side. That's all it means. And so just go to the other side, then go center and create wholeness, right? So, you know, so every spirit is different because, you know, Val, if you remember your dad, one of the anchors was the car or something. Like it's so funny what spirits anchor to. I'm like, remember? It's like he's talking about his car.
Yeah.
You know, and so these objects that we have in our home, they vibrate. And this is where, you know, if you can't get rid of the objects, I always say it depends. You know, if I reset the objects, you know, this is where in session I set objects in the home, I go through. So here's, you know, I think I've talked about this before. So especially with eating and stuff, I will set kind of, you know, my home or the space at the relationship of just this wellness and movement and working out. And that's what everyone does. They just start matching the vibration. So, you know, you can set objects. Objects are the way, that's where I started. I started with organizing and then setting objects. When you set an object, it contains a frequency. And this is where, like you said before, Val, if these objects that people have gotten from antique stores and their whole home goes upside down. Like the one little girl that couldn't speak for 2 years, and I'm like, it's a doll, burn it. And then she started speaking. So these frequencies, you know, they affect us, and we're going through frequencies all the time. So we can change that though.
Yeah.
it's taken me 20 some odd years. This is what I do every day, all day. You know,
Sure.
it's not just do this and that's it.
Right.
But
So, Kim, I'm just wondering, since vintage jewelry is my thing, I actually am a vintage jewelry seller on eBay, and that's just my big deal. Are you completely not into creepy old things? That's always been my thing my whole life, and I've let go of some things just because they were too creepy even for me, you know, and I understand the energy. Some objects have more bizarre energy than others, but do you believe the jewelry can be revibrated, or that's
well,
just
it's very interesting because I have some clients with the eBay store, and you know, and they're going to estate sales all the time, and sometimes their house will turn upside down, like everything shuts down, and all kinds of problems happen, and then they call me, and we clean it up, you know, but you know, they have to do a process, like they got to clear, you know, you got to clear the stuff, because you know, you could get an object with amazing energy and things move, but if that, like I worked with objects, my dad's a hoarder, like you know, those objects, there could be one thing with a frequency and it affects the way we eat. Like objects, you cannot, you just have to be very mindful about setting space and setting these objects and clearing them. And here is the amazing thing is, you know, isn't this funny to even get more sales for the eBay store with these clients I work with? Like this one object was not selling. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to talk to the guy who owned it, who's dead. And I'm like, I said, okay, you know, we're going to find a great home for this. Somebody who loves this, somebody, you know, see, this is the kind of communication you have to have because.
Oh yeah, I do that. I talk to my stuff and I say, oh,
Yes.
you're all going to go to your home and you're going to have a good time, and then it sells and it goes.
Yeah, it
You're
sells and
going
it goes.
where you belong.
Yes.
And I was wondering about the creepy energy.
Yeah, no, the creepy energy, you know, it depends what's connected to it. Like the creepy stuff that I've, like, because I go in a lot of haunted houses too, and it's usually haunted objects and spirits, spirits attached to it. So they'll start to wrap around people that, you know, you got to clean your field. You know, even a simple thing is spin, spin, round and round, up to the stars, down to the ground, open the space, fill me with love, light, and grace. You know, because they'll, you know, the spirit is attached to it, and it's an anchor for them, and it's what's keeping them here. And then they'll start to hang around your house, and this is where you got to be very clear, you know, and you know, so I mean, this is where, you know, like I was in kind of all that energy growing up, you know, with the border stuff. So, and it created a lot of problems, but if you can clear it and sometimes it's just a picture, just telling them to go doesn't work all the time, you know, you have to find out the picture to set them free because they're trapped and they're trying to work out their history and their pain, and then their pain may become a part of your pain and it'll play out. So you just got to you got to work the pictures to clear the pictures. And when you clear those, then, you know, then we can start to reset the object at something new. And you know,
Okay.
because it comes with past. So if you ever get stuck, call me because
I was just going to say that's a good transition. You know, where I thought we would spend this time goes so fast.
right.
I do want to just bring people back to the fact that all the sessions are recorded. If you want to hear earlier ones, we are 2-3 days now into the new moon, and so it is a very good time to create new things and let go of the old. So if anybody had further questions or was looking for, there's just certain things you can get from these sessions, and then there's certain things you get from one-on-one sessions, right? Obviously, very different. So for anybody that didn't get their questions answered or anything like that, we are trying to merge our lists so that everybody will get the email from you, Kim, instead of from me directly. And yeah, so we're going to continue to try to do that. If you have suggestions, feedback, we got some very good feedback last week that I thought was very helpful. We both thought was very helpful. Let us know.
Yeah, and I have a New Moon audio too, where you can donate if you want that. It's really fabulous about creating, and you're in that time, and we are on a new foundation, and stuff is coming in, and you want to go through that door. You got to go through that door.
Yeah.
I want to
good reminder.
Say the one-on-one sessions with you, Kim, are, especially when I'm going through times of transition, they're so grounding, and also so just like literally I feel like my third eye opens more when you and I just start creating together, right? It's like we just bring it in, and you help me release stuff that I've been working on, and because we're also friends, you understand my life's journey, so you bring that to it as well. So I just wanted to say, Val, thanks for bringing that up. And I just want to say, from my perspective as well, sometimes, especially during times of transformation, which we are certainly in right now, transitioning, transformation, letting go of things that don't serve, being open to what's next, and not necessarily thinking that we know it all, right? But really just being open. So Kim clarified that so beautifully, and then really weaves in, the heart work that she's so, expressive in, bringing everything through the heart energy, and working with our backspace, that which does not kill us, right? Makes us stronger, wiser, all that. So she really helps us channel that, pain that we've been through and are currently going through. So anyway, one-on-ones with Kim, yes, as well as this. This is so beautiful. I came on late, but I feel like I dove right in. I knew what you were talking about, and it was very helpful for me today, Kim.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And thanks for reminding me, Kim also has recorded sessions like the new moon magic, full moon. She does that every moon cycle, which are also fabulous. So,
and I do energy
so
work
powerful.
on Thursday. Yeah. Suzanne, I teach here locally when it's open, but the Living Room Collective is.
Yes, and we really want to start doing, I'm actually on my hammock right now, ladies, and so grateful for this day. And I have to tell you, I twist myself in this thing like a spider, and it moves my sacrum in my back, and I highly recommend it. Kim's also doing a forest bathing, like hiking with Dexter.
Yeah.
And right now, as we're just starting to get out again, even if you have to have a mask on,
exactly.
we should all put our bare feet in the ground sometimes and ground into the electromagnetic field, actually, with Kim during her walk. So we're learning so much more about energy. That rubber between our feet and the earth is, it's not good for us all the time. So just planting our feet, even if we can't go for a walk with you, Kim, I'd love to encourage people to start going, getting in their backyards, or, looking.
Yeah, these vibe up mats are really great. I have them on under my feet. I have them in my bed, and
great.
Yeah, you can get these. It's from you can get them here, but some of the soils from Ireland. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
You can put jewelry on it, all kinds of things.
Yeah, this is quantum science now. So there's the science of what Kim does now. Yay. Thank you all so much. I'm going to sign off. Love.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Kim.
Bye, Gail. I think I have your email, right, Gail? Do I have your email?
It is. It's Gail
Okay.
Jane Price. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, so glad you could join us.
It was fabulous. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye. Bye, Judy. Bye. Bye, Jen.